space invader, snatching her free from King Kong's choke. She's out on sea, she'll get you later. Now that your joystick's broke, now that your joystick's broke, now that your joystick's broke, now that your joystick's broke. You had it made with all the women at the arcade. Now you're the joke. Still wear the shades, but who you kidding? Now that your joystick's broke, now that your joystick's hurt your wrist. You can barely make a fist. You're the king of indoor sports, so how come the circuit shorts? Call that number, broken sticks. Bring 'em in and get 'em fixed. They're in your jeans, that roll of quarters still fills the air with lipstick smoke. Guess the machine is just out of order. Now that your joystick's broke. 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 Hurt your elbow, hurt your wrist. You can barely make a fist. You're the king of indoor sports, so how come the circuit shorts? Call that number, broken sticks. Bring 'em in and get 'em fixed. Now that your joystick's broke. Now that your joystick's broke.
I'll never make you sad. I'll always make you glad. Stop you feeling bad. Just hang around. I jump
Darling. 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 Darling.
Both written to me.
Darling. Darling.
Innocence, papa and big expense all made sense.
You know I need your love. You know just what to do. When you feel my love, it's just me and you. You know I need your love. You know just what to do. When you feel my love, it's just me and you. Give it up!
Surely you can give me a reason. Was there something that I said to you? Well, that's okay. If that's the way you want, there's no way I can make you stay. Anytime, any place, you're always gonna hear me say, I'm living in love's shadow. I'm living in love's shadow. I'm living in love's shadow. I'm living in love's shadow, shadow, shadow. If you could just remember the times we had before. You left me all alone and wonder the reason that you closed the door. Well, that's alright, but anything you need, just call me on the telephone. Anytime, any place, you're always gonna find me home. I'm living in love's shadow. I'm living in love's shadow. I'm living in love's shadow. I'm living in love's shadow, shadow, shadow.
So where do we go from here?
Now that we're alone, I wonder,
Why are you now concerned?
'cause I'm living in your love shadow.
We've no time for conversation.
Why didn't we take that time?
You left me standing in the darkness.
Surely that's the way you want it. I'm living in a love shadow. Shadow. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's true. Surely you can give me a reason. Was there something that I said to you? Well, that's okay. If that's the way you want, there's no way I can make you stay. Anytime, any place, you're always gonna hear me say, I'm living in love's shadow. I'm living in love's shadow. I'm living in love's shadow. I'm living in love's shadow, shadow, shadow.
Take it easy, my brother Charlie. Take it easy, piensa en el amor. Take it easy, my brother Charlie. Take it easy, piensa en el amor. es una flor, la flor con simpatía y alegría. El primer encuentro de nuestro boda. Take it easy, my brother Charlie. Take it easy, piensa en el amor. Take it easy, my brother Charlie. Take it easy, piensa en el amor. Después, cuando ese primer hombre maravillosamente pisó la luna, yo me sentí con derechos, con principios de no limitar mi libertad. Es por eso que le canto al amor, le canto a la fe, le canto a la ilusión, le canto a la alegría, le canto a la paz, canto sin condición, canto a la madrugada. Take it easy, my brother Charlie, take it easy, piensa en el amor. También le canto a mi amada, adorada, deseada. Take it easy, Charlie.
never met a girl quite as sweet as you. Don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. All I know is you're unusual girl from another time, from another world. What part of heaven did you come from? Ooh, my love. Tell me, what part of heaven did you come from? My love. I know that the Lord, He wouldn't let you escape from its pearly gates. Oh, baby, soon He's gonna miss you, and soon He's gonna search on every star, every planet in the universe. What part of heaven did you come from? My love. Hey, baby, what part of heaven? Tell me, what part of heaven did you come from? Up above. I know my imagination can play tricks on my mind, but I know you're real this time, baby. Call me a fool, go on, just call me dumb, but I swear I know an angel when I see one. Oh, yes, I do, baby. Oh, an angel. Yes, I do, baby. Yeah, yeah. That I know my imagination can play tricks on my mind, but I know you're real this time. Hey, baby, call me a fool, girl. Come on, call me dumb, but I swear I know an angel when I see one. Yeah. Oh, baby, did you come from, girl? Oh, I've got to know, baby, what part of heaven are you from, girl? I know you're an angel, baby. Oh, you're an angel. Oh, yes, you are. Oh, you're from the east side, baby. Or the west side, baby. Oh, from the north side, baby. Oh, south side, baby. I wanna know right now. Flowers bloom in morning dew, and the beauty seems to say it's a pleasure when you treasure all that's new and true and gay. Easy living, and we're giving what we know we're dreaming of. We are one, having fun, walking in the glow of love. smiling faces, going places. It's so wonder, it's so clear. By a fountain, climbing mountains as we hold each other near. Sipping wine, we try to find that special magic from above. As we share our affair, talking in the glow of love. Dreaming of the splendor of it all. We're surrounded and abounded. Summer, spring, winter, and fall. All the people's
Okay, I'm gonna. This is like, I don't even. Do you think I need this? Probably not, right? But I'll do it anyway. All right. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming. I know everyone thought we were going to be in the middle of a hurricane, and it's actually perfect. So thank you for coming out here, regardless of whatever stories people had about the weather. This is a series that I'm organizing with Dále and with Lalo Tequila, and it's in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month. But I did one last week with artists, so it was a panel on Latinx art. And the first thing, I had sent out an email to a couple of the artists, and the first thing we wanted to talk about, and now I think it's even more important because I'm with word and literature experts, is the word Hispanic. So I really have sort of an issue with that, of it being called Hispanic Heritage Month. Ronald Reagan in 1988 actually wrote it into law, Hispanic Heritage Month. And recently, as many of you probably know, there's other terms, right? In the art world, especially with the Latin American market, the term Latinx is what is being used. And for me, it's a term that seems more inclusive. It's, it's more gender inclusive. It's not implying that, the word Hispanic comes from Hispaniola, which is Iberia, basically. So for me, not that that's a big deal, but I would like to touch on that because it interests me. Since 20% of this country identifies as Latinx, in Miami, it's 72%. So I think in LA is 49, in New York is 19. So I think we are the most. I wonder if Albuquerque, there's probably a couple cities somewhere like in New Mexico, but I think Miami is pretty much the most, the city where the largest amount of people who are Latin American or Latin American first gen identifying come from. Anyway, that was just like my spiel. My name is Veronica, and I'm the founder of Miami Art Hang. I am an art historian and an art educator, and I am from Ecuador, and I immigrated when I was 5, so I do consider myself Ecuadorian American. And that's enough about me. And now I'm going to introduce these two incredible women. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, their pronouns, what they think about the word, and then we'll continue. So I just want to introduce the term Hispanic, what you think about it, Latinx, just curious what you feel about all that identity terminologies. Oh yeah.
I proudly use Latina because I comfortably identify and have always identified as Latin, or even go deeper and I'm saying Cuban Puerto Rican, because I'm in this space of comfort of, oh, your it's not it's beyond your ethnicity, it's your culture, your family origin. So that, yeah, I lead with that. I've never used Hispanic comfortably. Not that I necessarily have these like feelings of, oh, it's a colonial term, but just Latina comes so naturally. Oh, great. Thanks. So I'm Melody Santiago Cummings. Parents immigrated here. My mom is Cuban, came in the 60s as a Peter Pan kid. My dad is Puerto Rican, immigrated here when he was 4 years old. So their story is my story. They were the first graduating class at Miami Edison Senior High with Latino students. So my parents met as little high school sweethearts because they were some of the few that spoke Spanish. And so I'm thoroughly Miami, grew up here, elementary, middle school, high school. I have a background in fine art. I went to art school in New England, met my husband there. I've been in Miami, living here, feeling like I'm claiming space since 2005. Currently the executive director of O Miami. I have been with O Miami since 2013, and we produce a poetry festival. We operate year-round as an education organization and as a publisher. And I am proud to say I, just became executive director earlier this summer, and I shared that role as a co-director with another Latina, Caroline Cabrera. So she's artistic director and I'm executive director. And I feel so comfortable sort of operating in this dual space of art, community, and just open sharing without like any strict agenda. So thanks for having me.
Hi. Thanks so much, Melody, and thank you all for being here tonight. So I'll start. I'm Lissette Mendez. I'm the executive director of the Miami Book Fair. This is my 20th book fair this year. It's a lot of fun. It's also a lot of work. And the book fair itself has been in Miami. It was founded in Miami, in downtown Miami, 41 years ago. This is the 41st fair. So it's really a fun job, and like Oh Miami, we have a festival every November, and then we operate all year round with all kinds of programs that are about writing or reading, whether it's for kids, for adults. So I'm happy to talk about that forever. But I grew up in Miami. I came from Cuba when I was 9 years old, and because I've always grown up in Miami, I don't think the word Latina or Latino or Latinx was really part of my consciousness until, I don't know, 20 years ago. Time goes by really fast. But, like when I was in high school, I don't think we used that term, right? In the 80s. I think maybe it's a term that came a little bit later. And I think the term that was used by everyone that has our background was Hispanic. So, to me, I have to be honest, like for myself, like I don't care. You can call me whatever you want. I'm very mixed, right? So, yes, I was born in Cuba, but on my mom's side, we're European Jews from Belarus. On my father's side, there's probably Spanish and other things that nobody remembers. So I guess I kind of just identify as like a person who's Cuban American, but more like mixed up than any specific like label could ever make me feel comfortable. I do understand like the whole, colonial overtones of the word Hispanic, and and I agree. But something happened this year that I thought, a wonderful writer who's a good friend. Her name is Maria Rana. I bring books with me everywhere I go. So just wherever you see me, there's always a book I can give you from the back of my car or from my bag. So, well, not this one, but yes, many will come out. Many. So here it is. This is one of the best books I've ever read, and Maria Rana is a journalist and nonfiction writer. She worked for the Washington Post as a book critic for many years, and then she went on for a while to actually she was the director of the National Book Festival, which takes place in Washington, D.C., and it's part of the Library of Congress. So what Marie did is that she went back to the time of the Conquista, and she kind of traced what became the Latino or Latinx or Hispanic populations of the United States, where they came from, how were they made, what are all the different influences, whether they were from Spain, Portugal, or indigenous peoples, or enslaved Africans, and she really sort of helped me look at how all of those labels are just labels, but also very appropriate. There's none of us that are sitting in this room right now who are Latino, Latinx, or Hispanic that doesn't trace back at least 1% to the Iberian Peninsula. And so in the end, I would much rather get rid of labels than anything else. But I do know we need to, qualify ourselves in some way in conversation. So I feel comfortable with any of those terms, but in my life, let's say I was writing something, whether it was academic or copy for advertising, I would probably use Latinx. But interestingly, in this book fair this year, and we have, it's like less than a month and a half away, there's a lot of different kinds of books by women or men that are of this kind of heritage, and they all use it differently. And so you'll go through the Fairgoers guide, and even though we have a style guide, you'll see that this is Latino land about Latinos, and the copy's all about Latinos, and that includes obviously women and non-gendered people. But then you have other books that use Latinx. And we have one anthology, which unfortunately our friend and co-conspirator on all things literary in Miami, Caridad, was not able to make it tonight. But she'll part of that panel. And it's an anthology of poetry, and it's the anthology of Latino poetry. It's being published by Library of America. It's the first time that Library of America publishes this kind of compendium of poetry by Latinx people, and they chose to use Latino. So
I'm so happy you brought that book, because I think I read the review, and I'm so happy you brought it, because it has been, oh my gosh. See why it's nice to have friends. Okay. So I'm a little side note to that. I mainly work in the arts. It's interesting. It's such a debate in the arts because it's a funding category. So in the art world, of all philanthropic giving, which would endow like museum chair stuff, only 2% goes to Latinx, right? So they need a category. They need a category. And there was a book last year written by Arlene Davila called Latinx Art, and she's a sociologist. So she wrote this book, and it's really a sociological, anthropological survey. And, and she just lands on it, and she's like, X is an intersection. It's an intersection of different genders, nationalities. And then, her thing with the word Hispanic, and then we can end with this whole word thing, but is like, okay, that's Spanish, right? There are, just in Brazil alone, over 140 indigenous languages. In Peru, there's over 50. In Colombia, there's 40. So she's like, it's really hard. And it's just, all these things are hard, but I love the conversation about it. And I cannot wait to read this book. All right, we'll end that conversation.
I actually include, and I don't know if Caridad is in it, but there's another poetry anthology. I think it's Haymarket. It's Latinx, with I think co-edited by Jose Olivares, and it's also just sort of an anthology, but it's just like a cross section of contemporary Latin poetry, and it is and you'll see the change in identification across everyone's bios and descriptors and the poems themselves. So I don't think there is one, because there is not one.
No, like I said, unless for instance, this is strictly for funding, because there was a $5 million grant between the Ford, Mellon, all these foundations to endow museum curators and for acquisitions for Latinx Fund, because it is the most underrepresented art in the United States, and women are worse. So it's like it's really bad. So for that is why I think they do it. Anyway, moving on. I also wanted to ask you guys, just especially because you're both Miami natives. I've been here for 20 years, so I'm not a native, but what do you think makes Miami, apart from obviously this very diverse Latin, Hispanic, whatever you want to call it, population, what makes Miami such a rich environment for art and community? Or, art, I mean literature, I mean all art.
All of it. I love that question. And I get asked that a lot, and I think if I could distill it to simplify it, it's that you could take risks here. And I've noticed, as operating as a professional and as an artist and as an advocate, no one says, that's not how we do that here. There aren't real rules in a traditional sense that I've seen that you have to achieve before you can take the next step. And there's a lot of funding for ideas. There's a lot of funding in general. There's more risk openness here, which just allows for new things and new experiments or variations of something tried and true that has, I think, created a welcome space for artists, a welcome space for experimental publishing. But there's always a level of polish that it does have, even if it's something risky, that makes it Miami. So that's why I think a lot of people with our work at Miami will say, how? When the sort of larger, capital P or the national literary world is looking at us, because we're like, well, because we're doing it in Miami. That's how. That's why we've been able to stand out, because we aren't following one path, because no one is really doing that. Even our museums, our institutions aren't following a traditional guidebook. The money's flowing from other places, the audience flowing from different places. So, I think just kind of the lawlessness, and the kindest asterisk term of that is what's made it fun and palatable and given it its own kind of spin.
Yeah, I would say all of that is true. I think also the way I would put that is that nobody really cares what you do in Miami. There's just not a world of gatekeepers, right? Or anything. Really, just nobody cares. I wish they would care more sometimes, right? But it's that kind of thing, okay, you might be the crazy person on the corner, and nobody cares if you're the crazy person. Maybe you're the crazy person that's creating the most amazing new thing, right? Or crazy person who's riding a horse through Little Havana, talking poetry, which is something that that you guys did. Or it's fine with everyone, because we're kind of just don't care. You walk around the city and you see all kinds of people dressed all kinds of ways in all places, and it's nobody cares. So I think I'm sometimes grateful for that, right? I rather be in a situation where I could bring any author, right? I could bring super controversial authors that would be super controversial in New York. Everybody's shutting things down, canceling events, because of so-and-so won't speak next to so-and-so. And this is it's a big article, I don't know, in the Times or something about, one author didn't want to speak with the other one because the other one felt this way, and then it's become a national story. In Miami, you could put any two people together and no one is going to even notice or care. And so even those authors that in another situation or place would be oh no, I'm this and you're that, so we can't sit next to each other. In Miami, they're hugging, right? Because nobody cares about that, right? Like, we care about the thing itself, the poem itself, the novel itself, the thing that you might have to say. We're not as deep into the superficialness of like the cultural whatever, right? I also think that, I mean, and this is going to sound a little more like, I don't know, but the whole idea that people come to this country, right? They come to Miami specifically from all of these places because the life that they want to live, whether it's a very like simple, just like feed your kids life or be an artist life, is so much more possible here than it is in some of the countries that we all came from, right? Like, I came from Cuba. There's great art and great things going on down there, but the life of an artist is not as possible, or a writer is not as possible there as it is here, right? Like, we have a friend, a poet like Nat Rodriguez, who's an incredible writer, incredible poet, was a poet and a writer in Cuba, but had to leave because it wasn't possible for her to have that artistic life there, right? So that's just one example of one country. I mean, there's other countries that maybe it's the political situation is not the only reason, but just like the financial situation for people. So I think the same sort of, kind of thrust that brings people here to have a life, period, also allows for people to feel like they can be artists here. They can be writers here. They can be, whatever, rich and famous here, and all the other things that people come here to do.
I've been here for 20 years. You guys have been here your whole life. I want to also talk about, because I know in the art world also with funding, I'm thinking specifically of Ulite, they had to institute an extra stipend last year, I believe their last round of funding, for living. I mean, all of us that have been here, since 2020 have seen this, astronomical shift in rent, in everything. How do you see that playing out with the poets and the writers that live here that you've?
I'm glad we're talking about this because it took us at Miami by surprise. It shouldn't have, but a few years ago, that we kept losing teaching artists. So we have an amazing poetry in schools program where it's only possible if we have freelance teachers and poets and artists who are available during those very small windows of time that a third grade or a fourth grade or an eighth grade class is inviting us to enrich their program. So it was reliant on young or emerging or available creatives. Year by year, I kept losing people, and it obviously is because the economy here, quality of life, stability. So we took a hard look at all the ways in which we were operating and realized the only way to sustain a space that is a safe place, a sustainable place for someone to identify, say they are a writer, a poet, someone who gets paid for their craft, is to standardize how we are operating as a resource for artists and writers. So we've really created an internal system to standardize the way we are paying poets, teaching rates, paying people to submit original curriculums, paying people for poetry, and like creating a sense of equity across all of the programs and ways that people can contribute and participate to our work. And it has helped us retain artists. And also we started to see, okay, how do we get ahead of that? So we created an incubator program called The Greenhouse, where multidisciplinary artists emerging between the age of 18 to 24 years old apply, and they're in a multi-week mentorship that is paid, that's giving them a stipend and giving them points of connection, not just a mentor and access, but is giving them that legitimacy to say I can be paid to take this risk as a poet. So it's become that Oh Miami now is like a major employer for poets. Like, we are poets for hire, and that's so satisfying. Even though it's not long-term full gainful employment, we're able to kind of be a resource for someone to say, yes, I am a poet, and that it can sustain what they do, and or at least not just give you that like emotional validation. So I say all this because it is hard to make books, it is hard to be an artist, but there are organizations, and Oh Miami is making those efforts to really create a safety net and a place of income, because it is impossible to do it on one income stream as an artist unless you've reached a certain level, and poets aren't often granted that opportunity.
Yeah, it's been shocking, really, though. Like you said, we should have seen it coming. How expensive everything got, like from one year to another, especially housing. So we have a program called the Emerging Writers Fellowship. That program is funded by the Perez Family Foundation, and we started it. 2019, 2020 was when the first cohort of fellows moved here to Miami in 2021. The way the program works is that we have an application period every other year, and the intent is for writers, fiction, nonfiction, poetry, whether in English or Spanish, can apply for the fellowship, and then if they get it, they move to Miami, and we pay them, and to enough so that they can live, pay their bills, do all the things that normal people need to do every day, like eat, and they are supposed to be in Miami for a year writing their book, writing their whatever it is that they're working on. And during that time, they work with a mentor. So, for example, the first cohort, which was 2021, it was 3 writers. All three of them have already published their books, and there'll be a book for this year if you're interested. One of them is actually longlisted for the National Book Award, Pemi Aguda. And so these authors these writers that apply, they can live anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country. So the first year we had 3 writers. It was wonderful. It was an incredible experience. They were here in Miami for a year. Pemi actually worked with Edwidge Dantica, who's an author who is, well, maybe not right now from Miami, but has spent most of her life, her writing life here in Miami. And then when it was time to do it again, we were like super excited. We went back to our funders, the Perez Family Foundation. We're like, we want to add one that's just for someone writing in Spanish, right? Because you could apply in those genres, but if your mentor that is choosing from the finalists didn't pick you, we weren't separating the Spanish from the English, and so we wanted to make sure there was always someone in Spanish. So we added a 4th fellowship for someone who just wrote in Spanish. So that was the second cohort. Between the time the first cohort came and the second cohort came, the costs had gone up so high that the amounts that we were able to grant them to live, that the first cohort had lived on comfortably, the second cohort couldn't do it anymore with that amount of money. And so, they had a hard time finding places. Like, we really, we helped them. We went back to our funder. We went to another funder, and, we created, a gap, like budget for them to have extra. So we did all these things to be able to sustain them for those 3 years, for that 1 year, for those 4 people. Sadly, this cohort who's about to move, they were just chosen. They're about to move to Miami in January. We had to go back to 3 fellows from 4 fellows, because even with all the extra funding that we like scrambled for in order to have a higher amount for them to get on a monthly basis for the year long, it's just not enough anymore either. So what does that tell you? There's one less artist that is getting that opportunity to spend that uninterrupted time finishing a book that could possibly end up on the National Book Foundation list, 2 years from now. So it's sad. And I feel like it's going to have a long-term impact. What you guys were doing is great. We've also always, we pay for everything, that whole idea of like, oh, could you do this like for exposure or whatever? We've never been with that. But I don't know how people who are working as teachers and who are writers and are working as teachers, I don't know how they can do it in Miami anymore.
So, in that book that I was mentioning, which I read December last week, so she talks about this for visual artists, and she talks about something that's really funny about this idea of race, race and class. So, for instance, you have an artist or a writer or a poet who perhaps is, recent immigrant and doesn't have the financial backing of a parent, money, or the social network to get grant or possibly get married or whatever. In the arts, the traditional finding of the art system is like, oh, you need money. Like to do that, you really not live in New York, live at community, right? So there is this issue of that, which I think we lose, right? And I think Miami needs to be a place where, okay, all right, even 10 years ago, maybe I am a recent immigrant. I could move here. Perhaps I could have roommates and I could make it work. And like you said, now that's not happening. So, I guess my question is, do you think that, obviously it's a loss for Miami, do you find that those, if you've come across somebody like that, are they moving somewhere else in the United States? Are they having to stretch themselves so thin by teaching, by doing other jobs? How do you see that overall affecting, the production of work?
In Miami, the production of work in Miami people, I haven't seen it quite yet. So one thing that strikes me, and I see it all the time about publishing, the publishing world in general, and publishing, like there's a lot of segregation
Between, we can be Latino and we have Latino stories to tell. They're there. But if you're writing in Spanish because you are a recent immigrant or that you've been here forever, but that's your favorite or your like safe language, it's very hard to get published. But people are doing it, so they're starting their own presses, their own imprints. Yeah. People are still doing it. I don't really know how it's going to affect in the long term. Most writers I know, all writers I know, really, except maybe Stephen King, work doing any number of things. A lot of them teach. Some of them have other kind of day jobs, right? Like they're arts administrators and they write at night or whatever. I don't really know any writers that just live on their writing.
What we've noticed is people who were living, let's say, Mimo area are now moving to Plantation or moving to South Dade. So that's another thing that's inhibited some of the educators and the collaborators we have is also access and proximity, because you can't even find an apartment to share with a roommate. They're moving. So I don't have a lot of hopefulness that it's going to sort of plateau. So it is going to affect the work. It is going to affect, what I am seeing is, from a major funding standpoint, more established, even risk-taking, but more established past grantees are getting funding. And there's not a lot of space for someone to kind of do something very, very new because they don't have the opportunity to be here.
Okay, let's not be Debbie Downers anymore. I just want to get that out. Let's talk about, so I just read a recent book by an Ecuadorian author who I love, Carla Cornejo. And she was is she still no, she was undocumented for a long time, but she ended up getting a scholarship to Harvard. Her first book is called The Undocumented American. It's brilliant. Her second book is called Catalina, and I loved it. And actually, there's two books that I've also the book Anita Montes Goes to Die by, I can't pronounce her name.
Gonzalez.
So yeah. So those are two books written by two Latinas that I just recently read that I loved because they I went to graduate school. I got a scholarship to graduate school. I wrote in on on affirmative action like hard. And it was great. And but they write about that, about what it's like going to like one of these very prestigious American universities and being the only Latina in an entire department that you're there to study Latin American art. But all your professors are white. I mean, that was the case in the 90s. I think it's changed. But I loved these books because it really is, it's an insight into the world of academia coming from two Latinas. So that's personally a genre that I had never read that experience that I lived until I read those two books, and I thought they were beautiful. So highly recommend those. But I wanted to ask you guys more recommendations on what new literature and poetry you guys are reading and love.
Yeah. Well, I have to name drop Caridad Moro Garnier, whose debut poetry collection is called Tortillera. She was just appointed Miami-Dade County's Poet Laureate. So check out her work. She's a teacher, so she's also supplementing her poetry, but she's got a lot of amazing works published in journals and anthologies everywhere. But Tortillera is a must-read, Miami must-read Latina, Latinx poet. Legna Iglesias Rodriguez, who was mentioned earlier, incredible. It's what I love about her is that her work reads so raw, but it's so deep and thoughtful. And if you ever get the privilege of hearing her read, you're just entranced. She reads in Spanish, and she could say the word lengua like no one I've ever heard. Like, just her use of sound and there's sensuality in her work. But nearly all of her published books have been translated. And so McSweeney's has picked up her book. My Girlfriend is a Bulldog. So her work is very, very accessible, but she's a contemporary, bold, badass Cuban writer, Miami writer, but also has 101 day jobs. So yeah, I would say those are two people in the like Miami canon of poetry and literature that we're lucky to be among right now, that are definitely going to be, recognized years to come.
You know what? I'm going to ask these ladies. I'll do like a list with all the links to books and books.
Yeah. So like on the bright side, right? From when I started, reading, as a high school student, right? Like, reading like big people books. To now, there's been a really big noticeable, difference in the amount of people who are getting published who are Latinx. When I was like in high school or growing up, it was like Isabel Allende. Yeah, that. I mean, I think that's it. No, there were like a couple of, Sandra Cisneros, and there were, Ana Castillo, and then, there was like Judith Ortiz Coffer, who's a poet. So there's a couple others there, but it was like, I don't know, 8. Yeah. And you had to dig deep, right? That 8th one was, only read by like 20 people in her hometown and like, people like me. So I'm really, I look back and I'm like, wow, we're winning, right? So your numbers are right on. I mean, 20%, all of that. I will tell you something else that's really funny. Well, it's funny for me. So I did grow up in Miami and I kind of never left. I have lots of family in New York and in other places in the U.S., so I traveled a lot, but I always lived here. Miami Beach, of all places. That's like, I never left. I'm still there, okay? But when I first started this job that I have now, I used to go to New York to meet with publishers. And we would go into these big conference rooms, you know, and because I've lived in Miami all my life, I never thought of myself as any different from you or any of you in the room, because we all kind of look the same, even if we're not from the same place. And we're used to so much difference. But you notice, like, we talk like this, right? And a lot of times we kind of interrupt each other. It's not because we're rude, but it's because it's like, yeah, I'm so excited to tell you the next thing. So I would go to New York, and we would be sitting around this giant conference table in this, like, fancy building on, like, you know, whatever, in the Penguin Random House headquarters or some craziness. And everybody would just sit like this. And I don't know, how did they figure out that I'm, like, I don't know, some, like, Cuban refugee off the boat or something? Is that what it is? You know, like, how, like, why? I was just like, and it took me forever to kind of figure it out. There were no Latin people in any of the conference rooms. There were no black people in any of those conference rooms. As a matter of fact, I mean, okay, mind you, I've been in book fair 20 years, so let's think 15 years ago. There were only ever, like, 3 black people in the whole building, maybe. I'm talking editorial or publicity, right? I mean, I don't know. And we kind of had, like, it's not a joke, but it's kind of like, you know, those jokes that you make amongst your people, that their, like, idea of having a black person for every house was the receptionist. You would walk into HarperCollins, and the receptionist was black. And then you would go into the meeting with your publicity department or whoever, and everybody was white and not like white Hispanic or, you know, white whatever, Asian, no. Everybody was white. And it was like that for a really long time. So it took me a while to realize that they didn't hate me. They were just not Latinos. Right? And then, like, I started kind of realizing, like, oh, wow, like, this is, you know, I live in a bubble of, like, Miami, or, like, if I go to New York, I'm, like, in with, you know, family or friends, you know, I'm not in the professional space. So publishing, and everybody knows this, that, you know, is deals with publishing, is, like, extremely, extremely white. And I think for a really long time, you know, that's definitely one of the reasons why these, outside of, like, Isabel Allende, who, you know, or, you know, Sandra Cisneros, like, nobody else you would never get, like. But a lot has changed. I mean, now they have, like, 2 black people and 3 Hispanics or 3 Latinos, or however you want to identify them. It's still extremely white, but there are a lot more books being published today by people who are Latino in the U.S. Lots and lots more books that are translated into English that are, like, you know, big sellers. And that's one of the reasons that, you know, so, like, I like to look at the kind of positive too sometimes, you know, because you gotta celebrate the wins.
That's what Arlene says. We got to be cheerleaders.
Right. You know, because that gives me a little bit of hope, right? Like, some things have changed. Some things are getting better. These are not all the books by Latinos that we have at Book Fair. These are just the ones that I could carry in a bag, because I really wanted us to sort of think about that, right? That we went from just Isabel carrying all of us, you know, like, carrying us along, like, the hope of all of us, you know, to be one day. And then it's actually worked, right? So, and these are women in this case.
Wait, speaking of her, have you heard her podcast with Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
No.
Oh.
No, she's great.
No. I will say, yeah, I'm putting that in the notes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I love to see it. So, yeah, look, actually, this guy's from Miami. This is a Miami guy right here. There's actually a couple of really good Miami books by Miami people that are coming out this year. There's this is Andrew Barriga, but there's another one also, Alejandro Nodarse, who also has a book out this year, Blood in the Cut. Brand new book, first debut author. Uh, so, you guys can raffle these off or something. Let's see who else. She is also originally from Miami and is no longer living in Miami. A lot of people go and have to go get those teaching jobs wherever you can give them. But this is a Colombian family. Is the protagonist of this book. This is a really good read. I haven't like I was telling Melody, I read, so that I can put the programming together with the great folks I work with. I often end up reading just half a book, because there's 500 authors coming to book fair. So, yeah, literally. So, but this is one of the ones that I put in my for after book fair pile. And she is, this is a story. It's a Mexican family in the U.S., right? And it's a Mexican-American family, a Chicano family, and it goes for a couple of generations. It's a really fun read. Plus, who doesn't love this cover? Look at this cover. It's amazing. Yeah. Cristina Enriquez. This is not her first book. She's had another couple of books before. You might be familiar of her. The first book she wrote was called The Book of Unknown Americans. Yeah. So, and one of the reasons I brought this one, besides the fact that she's Latina, is because look, she's got a Jenna sticker. So we've made it to daytime television, okay, people. We've made it to daytime television. Yeah, and so these are another one. This is multi-generational, Latin America. It involves a lot of the wars. I don't think they specify exactly what country, but it's a kind of country that we can all recognize as maybe it could be Santo Domingo or Guatemala, and so it's beautiful. And this is actually a Cuban American writer. Well, she's actually Cuban, and she came from Cuba as an older, kind of older person, not that old, but past, 20s or so. And she's written a ton of books, and she lives in, I want to say she lives in New Mexico. Yep, New Mexico. And she writes all kinds of different books, and this is her little noir series, which are not very serious. They're fun, but they also really give you a lot of what Cuban life in Cuba is like. So I just thought I'd bring some of the.
I love the top hits. We're gonna, yeah. I want to open up to the audience if you guys have any questions.
Can I do it in Spanish? Bien. Me gustaría saber, ya que las considero como unas expertas, no sé, en las artes, en lo que es Miami. Y bueno, yo viniendo hace 3 años acá, recién me estoy acomodando a lo que es la comunidad artística de Miami, que la verdad me dio la bienvenida de una forma que nunca me podría haber imaginado. Y siento que eso es muy característico de Miami. Pero bueno, mi pregunta va a cómo, ¿qué les recomendarían a más estudiantes, así migrantes, que quieren empezar una vida relacionado a las artes, especialmente acá en Miami? ¿Qué es ese clic que tienen que hacer o por dónde se tienen que meter para de verdad que eso, de ver un futuro más allá y bueno, empezar una vida hermosa?
Well, I'd like to also just add, Valentina is an amazing example of a student trying to find their space here. Miami had the privilege of doing a residency at Miami Beach Senior High a couple years ago, where we brought an artist collective to do a workshop to essentially just do a piece of public art outside of the school. It was 2 major 3 million gallon water tanks, ugly eyesore, gray as gray can be. So we thought we would just do our regular formula: do an embedded workshop, gain some insight into the students' points of views, and gather a poem that would then inspire a piece of art. But that's not what happened. So we got to meet all these amazing students. We got hundreds of poems, and they wrote on a prompt. And Valentina submitted a poem that was so real, and it was about home and finding her identity, and it was a multilingual poem, and it just sparked something that was bigger than we could have ever conceived. So ultimately, her poem opened up this thinking about place, and these artists created this bilingual conversation using her poem as an inspiration. It's now a piece of permanent public art on Miami Beach. It's an adornment of the school, but it also has kind of illuminated a way that these artists called Boa Mistura are operating by incorporating poetry into their work. So she had a huge introduction into placemaking and Miami's mission, but now she is creating a conversation, a dialogue with her in city, her classmates, people who will probably never meet you in person. First, a ninth grader will read your work and something else will spark. So the advice I would give any student is to do what you're doing, is just be present and participate and do something outside of your comfort zone. But, and I'm sure, Lissette, you can speak to this, volunteering and just going in to meet those people that are doing something that excites you. The Perez Art Museum has an amazing PTAC, PAM Teen Arts Council, that is creating conversation and social mobilization with students around art. The De La Cruz collection was doing the same thing with an arts program. Miami has constantly been trying to get, the reason we are so big and we do so much is that people volunteer. So at any age, at any place in your life, if you're like, hey, I like that makes my city feel or look like a city that I hope it can be, volunteer. So I know the book fair is run by volunteers and people that are either volunteering their time or volunteering, putting some deep contribution into that. So if you can't donate your money, donate your time, donate by signal boosting great ideas, because it only happens by other people sharing in this. So Valentina, you are an example. I will continue to use you as an example, as just put yourself in a space, surround yourself by people, share yourself authentically, and then you will get so much more in exchange and in reward.
Yeah, I agree with everything Melody said, for sure. Keep writing. Like, if you're a writer, right, or whatever kind of art you practice, you just have to keep doing it all the time, even when you don't have the time, and where you're tired or where you're not getting inspiration. And there's a lot of really good free resources for participating and continuously participating in that life with those folks. So like, you're a teenager, other teenagers who want to write. Book Fair has a program that's completely free. It happens it's online, so it's like, because Speak Up, you did Speak Up, right? So Speak Up is free. It happens online. The folks who teach are writers that live all over the country. Different kinds of writing, different kinds of books. They meet every Saturday for about 3 hours, and then there's a summer camp, right? That's like a week or so long, and it's open to as many kids as sign up. And so, you have to go and put yourself out there and do all those kinds of things and find them, and then you'll find your tribe, right? Like, I was a young person like you, writing things in a notebook, whatever. I also like to paint and draw. This was when Oolite was called the South Florida Art Center, and it was just like a couple of storefronts on Lincoln Road. And I wanted to be like one of those people, like, I wanted to be an artist, like all the things. So I would just like walk and show up. I remember just showing up in like this artist, like, studio place on like a be like, hi, I want to learn how to paint. Can I come and you can teach me? I was like 6'15" or something. but it worked out. Like I spent, I don't know how long in that studio with that woman, and I would help her with her work, like, I don't know, cleaning brushes or whatever, and then she would teach me in return. And the same thing, like as a writer, I eventually went to grad school for writing. I'm not a writer anymore, but it became like I knew I wanted to be in the world of writers and books, and reading is the only thing I really know how to do well. So I was like, okay, I better find my way into a situation where whether it's my writing or my reading will work. And it did, right? Like it could have not happened, but that's all I did, right? It was like I would go to the bookstore every day and buy books and go to the readings and go to the things, and eventually like you meet your people. Yeah.
What you were saying, I think there are a lot of, in fine arts at least, there's young arts, there's Locust has Lab, which is a program for high schoolers in the summer, and they're incredible, month long. And I have seen from friends who are artists and teaching artists, the mentorship in Miami, and it's pretty incredible. Mac, Raul Perdom, I don't know if you know him. Just this entire generation right now. Mark Ford or Cornelius Tulick, just these artists that are killing it. They're both of them are Haitian. Diana Sebio, who was here at the talk, she went through Young Art. And these are kids that grew up in Miami, went to do all the things that you're doing, and through the mentorship of, institutions and art, they really have advanced in their career so much, more than I've seen in any other place. I worked in New York in education and the arts through the Guggenheim, and I haven't seen an accelerator like the way I've seen it in Miami. Miami is a place that you can really get involved in public schools and through these organizations and really flourish. So I think that's great. But also had kids, and then I became a single parent, so I wanted to be with them more. I just worked on and off in the arts, and recently I said, you know what? No.
Poet, photographer, artist. She runs a program offered through Pam called Creative Aging.
Oh, Nicole.
Yeah. So Creative Aging, and it is for that same story. I like art. How do I find my space? And it's such a beautiful program.